Hi, this is Mr. Wilson. I teach A-level music technology at Huntington School, and I'm here to just give you a bit of a demonstration of the type of thing we get up to in lessons. So I'm using a program called Cubase that you might be familiar with. This is actually Cubase version 9. The school currently uses Cubase version 7, but we're actually upgrading it over the next few months. So by the time September comes around and you are joining us, we'll actually have Cubase 11, which is the brand new version, so that's very exciting. So this is the program that we use at Huntington. It's a professional digital audio workstation. We have the full version that you'll find in professional studios all around the world, so we're pretty well equipped. This is the kind of task that you'd normally be having a look at and then trying out yourself on a taster day, but obviously we can't do that this time. So I'm just going to show you some highlights. So we're going to jump in here. So we've got a couple of guitar tracks, but we're going to add some EQ to the vocal track. EQ is the boosting and cutting of different frequencies, usually to make things clearer in the mix or to make things nice and boomy. But we're actually going to use some EQ as an effect on the vocals. So I'll just play you what we've got so far in this little mini song. We've got some guitar.
Is it really just the waves, or is the addiction something else?
So we've got a few tracks, a little bit of music there that we would be recording ourselves in our recording studio, but we're just going to listen to the vocal for the moment and we're going to add some EQ. So,
Ooh, hey, yeah. Is it really just the waves, or is the addiction something else?
what the task is asking us to do is to actually add some EQ to the second phrase of that vocal part in the verse to make it sound like a kind of telephone voice. So if I just press play and it'll loop around.
Is it really just the waves, or is the addiction something else?
I can start cutting frequencies to make it sound like a telephone voice.
Or is the addiction something else? Is it really just the waves, or is the addiction something else?
So I've actually taken the original recording, cut all the low frequencies, cut the very highest frequencies, and boosted the kind of mid frequencies to give that kind of telephone radio kind of voice.
Is it really just the waves,
But we just want that effect to happen on this line.
or is the addiction something else?
So we're going to have to bypass the EQ effect. So we want it to do this.
Is it really just the waves, or is the addiction something else?
Just so that the telephone effect comes in just for a few moments. So we can use something called automation to do that, and you can use automation for all sorts of different things. And it just means that you can program it in essentially to the computer, and it turns things on and off. It remembers what you've put in it and it does it automatically. So that should now.
Is it really just the waves, or is the addiction something else?
Turn the EQ effect on just for that little section, and then it turns it off again, so that if we listen to the rest of the song,
The smell of wax on.
we've got all the frequencies back in the vocal. So that's one little task that you would have been trying out. The next is to use a compressor on the vocals. Now a compressor is basically managing the dynamics, and with a vocal you've got really, really loud bits and soft bits as well, and we use compression to basically turn down the loudest parts of a bit of audio and squash the dynamics basically so that it's nice and consistent. Otherwise, you'll have the loudest bits a bit too loud and the quieter bits a bit too quiet to be heard. So compression is a big part of music production these days. So let's put a little compressor on, and I'll just do a few quick settings, and you'll be able to see in this little middle meter the gain reduction. So this is going to be how much the volume of the vocals has been turned down by. So if I just press play.
Hey, yeah. Is it really just the waves?
There we go.
Or is the addiction something else?
So I'm going to put quite a lot of compression on this.
Smell of wax on a summer's day.
We've got a lot of gain reduction.
Gulls spiraling up and up. A solo session at the point. A dolphin just beyond the break. Taking a wave to the beach at sunset. Beach at sunset. Beach at sunset. Only a surfer.
So it is actually reducing the volume across a lot of the vocal, but it's just making it a lot more consistent. So we can turn up the overall volume now, and we'll definitely be able to hear every little bit. There are some very, very quiet bits here,
Knows a feeling,
which are still quite quiet.
only a surfer knows a feeling.
So we can use automation again to just boost these little bits. And obviously, if you were spending a bit of time mixing this yourself, you could be very careful here. I'm kind of doing it quite quickly just to show you the general idea. And you could spend a lot of time boosting the quieter bits with automation as well.
Surfer knows a feeling,
Just so that nothing is lost.
only a surfer knows a feeling.
So you can have a play with compression and dynamic processing using things like compression and the volume automation. We can pan audio, which means you can move it left or right into the stereo field. So if you're listening to this with headphones on, you'll hear this really, really clearly. Again, I'm going to use another layer of automation. I'm going to click a panner, left to right pan. And the task asks us in bars 22 and 23, so if I just zoom in slightly, I'm going to set up another little loop so that it just kind of goes round and round. It asks us to pan bar 22 hard left,
Beach at sunset, beach at sunset.
and 23 hard right. So you can use the panner and I can just start chopping up these bars. And again, I'll do this really quickly, but you would, if you're doing this yourself, you'd have a lot more time to kind of see how it works. But I've just moved it fully left. So now in the left ear,
Beach at sunset, beach at sunset.
you've got the first repeat, and then I can drag this one down and draw in for the vocal to go to the right hand side. So now 22, it goes left,
Beach at sunset,
then to the right,
beach at sunset.
and then it'll go back to the middle.
Only a surfer.
And that adds a lot of interest in the mix. So we've done quite a few things to the vocals. We've got a bass track and some drums as well.
Beach at sunset, beach at sunset, beach at sunset. Only a surfer.
So the last little thing we'll do is we will add some reverb. So reverb is the actual sound of the room. And back in the 50s and 60s, they used to actually record the actual sound of real rooms. But now that we use digital programs to mix music, we kind of use fake reverb instead, and we can put it on quite easily without having to worry about nice sounding rooms and stuff. So I'll add an effects channel and I'll put a little reverb unit in. And then I'm going to send the vocals to the reverb unit. So I'll just mute these other tracks. I'll just pick a pretty standard little smooth room sound. Quite a short reverb I'll use, just 1.5 on there. And if I send the vocals through to this reverb unit, you'll hear the effect is suddenly on the vocals. There we go. Got a bit of room sound there.
Hey, yeah. Is it really just the waves, or is the addiction something else?
Still got our telephone voice effect. So I can send as many instruments as I want through to this reverb unit. The drums sound a little bit too dry right now.
The smell of
So if I send the drums through to the reverb, they'll sound a bit more lively. And I can adjust how much reverb I want on each track. So I can make them quite dry, or I could add more reverb until I'm happy. The vocals have got some nice reverb on them.
up and up.
And the guitars, again, they can be sent through to the same reverb, so everything sounds like it's been recorded in the same space.
A solo session at the point, a dolphin just beyond the break, taking a wave to the beach at sunset.
So all that's left now is to do a bit of balancing. So we can use our mixer, and you might be familiar with kind of volume faders and things. You might have seen these before. So I can basically mix now. I can balance all the different tracks so I can hear everything clearly. So if I put it back to the beginning, I can spend a little bit of time doing a quick mix. And I always want the vocals to be the main focus, so I'm going to make sure they're nice and loud and everything else is just kind of sitting back a bit.
A solo session at the point, a dolphin just beyond the break, taking a wave to the beach at sunset, beach at sunset, beach at sunset. Only a surfer knows the feeling. Only a surfer knows the feeling.
So there you go, that's a very, very quick demonstration of some mixing skills. You're going to learn how to do things like compression, EQ, adding reverbs, all sorts of different balancing, panning effects, and loads of other stuff as well. There's so much to learn, and you'll be taught in a great amount of detail how to mix. Not only how to mix, but how to record all the instruments that you've heard just there, recording drum kits, vocals, guitars, everything using microphones. We've got a wide range of equipment in the studio at Huntington School. So yeah, this is the kind of thing that we work on regularly. The exams, again, this kind of style of task is that what the Unit 4 exam asks you to do, so it's very hands-on. And there's a lot of kind of theory as well to learn. The history of recording technology, the history of kind of all sorts of different music genres. So it's great. You don't have to have done GCSE music to pick up this course. It is it's a new subject aside. It's a different subject, I should say, as opposed to kind of straight music. So it's very exciting. And as I say, we're getting some new software. We're getting new equipment all the time. So we're always learning new things as we do the course. But if you do have any questions at all, just email one of us. I'm Mr. Wilson, and Mr. Burnage also teaches the course. But do get in touch if you've got any questions about any of it. And I'll hopefully see you in September. So thank you very much.